Hello, everyone. My name is Sarafi, and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we are going to celebrate Konami unbanning Madolche Petting Sasor and allowing us to play our 3 free prismatic copies of it that we got from the card trader with a Madolche Utopia deck. Now, the skill is quite interesting for this deck. The skill is called Order of Chaos. And what it does, you can reveal one V Salamander in your hand to put number 39 Utopia from outside your deck into the graveyard. You can return up to 2 cards to the deck from your hand or your monster zone, and then once this turn, if there are no monsters on your field, you can normal summon one V Salamander in addition to your normal summoner set. And finally, if you control number 39 Utopia, you can set one Rank Up Magic Limited Variance Force from your deck or graveyard to the field. However, during the duel this skill is used, you can only special summon Utopia monsters and monsters with a level or rank of 4. Why is that an issue? Well, Madolche likes to use Petting Sasor's effect to summon Madolche Pudding Cess and lower its level by 1. They also like to use Madolche Pudding Cess to go into Madolche Pudding Cess Chocolat a la mode. And here's the thing. Both Pudding Cess and Chocolat a la mode are level 5 and rank 5. So if you activate the skill, you are essentially cutting yourself off from the typical Madolche strategy. If you use Petting Sasor to summon Mageline from your deck, Mageline's level is reduced to 3, so you can't exceed summon. Additionally, Petting Sasor's effect, let's go ahead and talk about the main deck. Petting Sasor says if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is special summoned, you can special summon one Madolche monster from your hand or deck, and if you do, reduce its level by 1. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Madolche monsters. So, Petting Sasor, if you use her effect, locks you out of the Utopia plays. So the two sides of the deck fight each other. But there are some caveats here, right? So, as long as you haven't activated the skill yet, you can play whatever cards you want. So, you can still play the Petting Sasor turn on turn 1, or turn 2 if you're going second, if you want to. And the Petting Sasor only locks you into Madolche monsters if its second effect is activated and resolves. So, it says, if this card is special summoned, you can special summon one Madolche monster, so you can choose not to do it. And it also says, and if you do, also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn. So if your opponent negates Petting Sasor's effect, not only do you not get the special summon, you also don't get locked. So these are some ways that you can kind of flex around, right? The next card is Madolche Pudding Cess. This card is irrelevant except for the fact that it is named Madolche Pudding Cess, and a lot of cards that in the Madolche archetype are based around having Pudding Cess on the field or attached as material. You special summon this card with Petting Sasor. Petting Sasor can special summon her from hand, so even if you open this card, it's not that much of a brick. And you can also just return it to the deck with Order of Chaos if you need to. V Salamander, when this card is normal summon, you can target a Utopia monster in your graveyard and revive it. You put it there with the skill. And you can target one Utopia Ray V you control, equip V Salamander to the Utopia Ray V, and then once per turn while it's equipped to a monster, you can detach one Xyz material from the equipped monster, negate its effects permanently, and if you do, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, and if you do that, your opponent takes 500 damage for each monster they lost. So this is a Raigeki. That's really good. Utopia Ray V has 2,600 attack points. That means that if your opponent only has 4,000 life points, V Salamander just needs to destroy 3 monsters, and then Utopia Ray V will attack for lethal. Now, granted, a lot of players are gaining life points these days with Holly Angel Trick and the Legend of Heroes running around, but still, plenty of opponents that you're going to run into have 4,000 life points and summon at least 3 monsters at the same time. So this is an easy path to lethal going second. ZS Arm Sage, we are running this card mostly to give us an additional play if our Petting Sasor is negated. Petting Sasor summoned to the field, then we can just special summon the ZS Arm Sage from our hand, and then we can immediately Xyz into Utopia monster. This effect allows you to special summon it if you control a level 4 monster, and if you Xyz summon into Utopia, you get to add a Zexal Weapon monster from your deck to your hand, which will be your Zexal Weapon Tornado Bringer, which can target a Utopia monster from the hand, equip it, and it gains 1,300 attack points, and it cannot be just targeted by card effects, and if it would be destroyed by battle, you destroy the Tornado Bringer instead. So that's pretty good. Madolche Magically, when this card is normal or flip summon, you can add one Madolche monster from your deck to your hand, which is going to be your Petting Sasor. The plan is to normal summon Magileine, special summon Petting Sasor, special summon Pudding Cess, use Petting Sasor and Pudding Cess to go into your Glass Souffle. Glass Souffle detach Petting Sasor to activate its own effect. Then you can Exceed summon into Chocolat a la Mode, and then Chocolat a la Mode allows you to return a monster from your graveyard to your deck to special summon a monster from your deck, and you'll bring out another copy of your Magileine, for example. Then you can use the two Magilines that you had to go into Tiramisu. So this is definitely a dangerous strategy that allows you to very easily OTK your opponent if you're going second. Then we're running 3 Book of Moons, 2 Cosmic Cyclones, and 2 Warning Points to deal with our opponent's threats. And lastly, for the main deck, we have Rank Up Magic Limited Variance Force. This allows you to target one Rank 4 Xyz monster you control, special summon one monster from your extra deck that is a number C monster 1 rank higher, and you get to set this from the graveyard or the deck with the skill, so just have to run one copy and it's fine. For the extra deck, Chaos number 39, Utopia Ray V. When this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target one Xyz monster in your graveyard and return it to the extra deck. If this card has a Utopia monster as a material, then once per turn you can detach one material from this card, target one monster your opponent controls, destroy that monster, and if it was face up, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack it had on the field. So, if your opponent has a monster with 3,000 attack points, pop it, they take 1,500 damage, attack directly, you win the game. It's a decent card. Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray. This card is made by using the Rank Up Magic spell on Utopia. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, equip one Zexal Weapon monster from your hand or extra deck to this card as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. This effect's activation and effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, while this card is equipped with a Zexal Weapon monster card, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, and if you do, have its attack. So, importantly, when it says this effect's activation and effect cannot be negated, that is extremely good. A lot of cards do say that you can't respond to an activation, but not too many say that the effect can't be negated. This means that, for example, if your opponent has Destiny Hero Plasma on the field, which literally just negates all monster effects at all times, it can still resolve its effect even under Destiny Hero Plasma. That is an extremely rare effect, and it's very nice. And typically you will equip the Zexal Weapon Leo Arms, which gives your monster 3,000 attack points. During your battle phase, if a monster attacked this turn while equipped with this card, you can send this equipped card to the graveyard, and that monster can make a second attack on an opponent's monster this battle phase. So, as you will see in the replays, the best thing you can do is equip Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray with Zexal Weapon Leo Arms, raise its attack points to 5,500. Then if your opponent has a monster with at least 3,000 attack points, you cut its attack points in half with Leo Utopia Ray, attack over it, your opponent takes 4,000 damage, and that's lethal. Tiramisu, once per turn you can detach one Xyz material from this card, target up to 2 Madolche cards in your graveyard, shuffle those targets into the deck. Also after that, shuffle cards your opponent controls into the deck up to the number of Madolche cards returned. Wow, that's a good effect. So first of all, you do not target until you've detached. Now you have to have at least one Madolche card in your graveyard to declare that you are activating the effect. That's a rule of all cards that involve target. You cannot activate the card if there is not a legal target at the beginning of your declaration, even if there would be a legal target after you've declared. So there has to be at least one Madolche card in your graveyard. But there doesn't have to be 2 in your graveyard yet. However, you detach one material, now there's a second one in your graveyard, then you target. So by having one Madolche in your graveyard and the one material, you do get 2 targets. And you only target the cards in your graveyard. Your opponent can then respond to your targeting, but they don't know which card you are going to return to the deck because you don't have to target those. So not only does this get around targeting protection, you are allowed to Tiramisu cards like Leo Dancer and Chaos Max, for example, but it also means that if your opponent responds to this card by using one of their cards, like their trap, or by sacrificing one of their monsters to activate an effect, you could just return other cards on their field to the deck. The ability to select, not target, select the cards you affect with your effect on resolution is very, very dangerous, and it heavily advantages the turn player as opposed to the responding player. So Tiramisu is probably one of the best boss monsters we have in the game right now, and I'm not exaggerating. Utopia, we have Utopia in the extra deck mainly so that we can make it using Madolche cards in case we do not draw V Salamander. I would like to have Chaos number 39 Utopia Ray in the deck so that I could use it to get Utopia the Lightning with an extra material. We just don't have enough cards in the extra deck. Hopefully, we can get a ninth extra deck slot at some point. Speaking of Utopia the Lightning, you need to detach 2 materials from this card to raise its attack points to 5,000 when it battles, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. It's important to note that this card is very good against Link Karibo, because Link Karibo cannot use its effect until an attack is declared, and you can't activate effects after an attack is declared, so you literally just have a 300 attack monster that has to take 5,000 to the face. The problem is, if you use the Utopia that you got specifically from V Salamander, and you exceed into this, you only have 1 material. So be careful about that. Chocolate a la mode, you can exceed summon this card by using a rank 4 or lower Madolche exceeds monster you control as materials. Once per turn, you can target 1 Madolche card in your graveyard and shuffle it into the deck. While this card has a Madolche pudding cess as one of its exceeds materials, when a Madolche card in your graveyard is shuffled into the deck, you can detach 1 material from this card and special summon 1 Madolche monster from your deck in attack position or face down defense position. This is not once per turn, which means that you can use the first effect to trigger it once, then you put a material in your graveyard to get your special summon. You exceed the other 2 cards into Tiara Masu, as I mentioned earlier. Then Tiara Masu activates its effect, detaches to return 2 cards from your graveyard to your deck. Then you can activate Chocolate Alamode's effect again, detach and summon another Madolche card from your deck. That is extremely good, and this is how the core Madolche deck, like the pure Madolche deck, works, because they'll usually get the Tiara Masu and the Chocolate a la mode, and then they use the extra special summon from the second Chocolate a la mode to get out Hoot Cake, then use it to summon Mesengelato, and then they link those 2 into Sistart, and you have additional plays, and we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Give us Angeli. Lastly, we have Glass Souffle. 2,500 defense. Quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, target a Madolche monster on the field. This turn, that face-up monster is unaffected by monster effects except its own. And if a Madolche card is sent to the graveyard while this card is on the field, you could shuffle up to 2 cards from the graveyards into the deck. It's important to note that the first effect triggers the second effect. So even if a Madolche card is detached as material, it is still going to the graveyard, so you can use the second effect to shuffle cards. The shuffling does not target. So your opponent can respond to it by, they can use a card like Silver's Cry, for example, to return a monster from their graveyard to their hand, or summon it to the field, but then you can just choose other cards to shuffle. The drawback of this effect is that the shuffle effect is not part of the activation of the detach. You can't respond to, for example, Monster Reborn by activating Glass Souffle's effect, because all you'll do is make your monster unaffected by effects, then Monster Reborn will resolve, and then you will get the opportunity to shuffle after Monster Reborn has resolved. So if you're expecting your opponent to use a card like Monster Reborn, for example, in the Blue Eyes Dimension deck, you have to be sly about how you use Glass Souffle's effect. It's kind of difficult, especially when you're milling cards from the skill. The skill doesn't pass priority, but you may find some opportunities. Just don't declare Glass Souffle's effect in response to a card targeting in the graveyard that you need to get removed. You have to do it beforehand. Okay, let's take a look at the replay. All right, unnerfed Madolche is going against nerfed Blackluster Soldier. All we have is Petting Cestor, and we have to summon our Pudding Cess from hand. So this is probably one of the worst hands we could have gotten, but that's okay. We exceed the 2 into our Teacher Glass Souffle. Then we set 2 cards, and we activate Glass Souffle's effect. Now that we've used the effect, we can shuffle his ritual spell from his graveyard into his deck. So now he can't use it anymore. He's going to activate Pot of Dichotomy, which is a great card. I actually used this card when I played Blackluster Soldier myself. So at the start of your main phase 1, you could target 3 monsters with different types in your graveyard, shuffle all 3 into the deck, and then draw 2 cards, but you have to skip your battle phase. So I activate Glass Souffle's effect in response. Just going to go ahead and make my monster unaffected by card effects, and I'll also get to shuffle 2 more cards from his graveyard into his deck so that he has just a bunch of bricks in his deck. So at this point, my opponent no longer has Dark Magician in his graveyard, so he cannot use Chaos Form to banish Dark Magician. The only cards left in his graveyard is Karibo, which means that he also cannot banish 2 cards from his graveyard to summon Envoy of the Beginning. His deck has basically been completely dismantled. He's just playing pure Ritual BLS at this point. He's going to activate Gateway to Chaos and draw the original Blackluster Soldier. Nice. Then he activates Super Soldier Synthesis. He's going to send Envoy of Chaos from his hand and Beginning Knight from his deck to the graveyard to Ritual Summon Blackluster Soldier. Now, I am going to Warning Point this, mostly because I think I forgot that he played Pot of Dichotomy. I was just trying to make sure that it didn't get attacked, but obviously my monster is unaffected by card effects. I don't have any cards in my hand for him to banish, and he can't attack, so this was a wasted Warning Point. But still, Warning Pointing a normal monster. Love it. Alright, he sets a monster face down, and then at the end of his turn, he's going to activate Envoy of Chaos's effect, which allows him to banish a light and a dark monster from his graveyard to add it to his hand. That means that he gets to trigger the effect of Beginning Knight, so if this card is banished from the graveyard, you can add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. You guys can kind of see how the actual Beginning Knights, Evening Knights, Envoy of Chaos deck is really supposed to work. This might be how Blackluster Soldier sees play in the future. Okay, so Envoy of Chaos is a hand trap. It lets his Blackluster Soldier gain 1,500 attack points and makes my monster use its original attack points in battle, so we cannot attack into this Blackluster Soldier no matter what. We have to do something else. It's our turn, and we draw the V Salamander. So we're going to put the Utopia in our graveyard. We're not locked by Petting Sasor this turn, so we just summon V Salamander. We bring back the Utopia. Then we're going to activate our skill. Set the Rank Up Magic Limited Variance Force and activate it. Immediately go into Chaos number 39, Utopia Ray V. My opponent has no traps, so all I have to do is deal with his monsters, and V Salamander is perfect for that. Equip Raigeki, 1,000 extra damage, switch to attack position, attack him directly, and there you go. That's V Salamander and Utopia working directly with Madolche's, controlling the graveyard, blowing up the field. That's the deck. That's how you play. My name is Sarafi, and I was thrilled to have you all with me.